Have you ever heard the old wives' tale, thunder in February, frost in April? Some people believe that if there is any thunder in February, it will guarantee a frost in April. Sure, old sayings may be superstitious, but many farmers and gardeners swear by this one when it comes to planting crops in the spring. And after our recent April cold snaps, there may be some truth to this. This week, we're kicking off a brand new gardening series, Blooming on the Bayou, where Kristen White shows us some easy tips and tricks to grow your own fruits and vegetables at home.
Hey y'all, welcome to my backyard, where this week we're kicking off a brand new segment called Blooming on the Bayou, where we're going to talk about everything from vegetable gardening to landscaping and flowers and everything in between. And the idea for this segment sprouted a few years ago when my husband and I purchased our very first home. And before that, I never really had an interest or a desire to work in the yard. But we had a little bit of land and I had a little bit of spare time to where we did some landscaping on the side of the house. We started a small vegetable garden and the passion grew from there. Now I truly understand why farmers and ranchers love their job so much, because there's nothing that's more rewarding than planting a seed in the ground, working hard all year, and then harvesting a crop a few months later. Now the goal of this segment is to prove that no one truly has a black thumb. Anyone can learn to plant a small vegetable garden or flowers to beautify your yard. And this week we're going to be talking about growing that spring and summer vegetable garden. Easter has come and gone, and now is the optimal time to plant your garden. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get to work on our vegetable garden. We're here in my backyard, and I just want you to know that you don't have to have a lot of space to build a good vegetable garden to feed your family. Our bed size is about 10 feet to 60 feet wide. If you don't have access to cross size, you can go to your local hardware store or Home Depot or Lowe's and get 2x4s where you can build a raised garden that way. We put some plans for how exactly you can do that on our website, so anybody can literally grow fruits and vegetables with just a little bit of space. So do you want to know the secret ingredient to a beautiful, productive garden? It's great soil. Plants thrive when they have the perfect ingredients to sink their roots into. And there's an old garden adage that goes, you can't put a $10 plant into $2 soil. So investing your time and, yes, a little bit of money into your soil will make a world of difference when it comes harvest time. So one of the most important ingredients in great soil is air quality. You want loose, fertile soil. The correct consistency of a good soil for garden is that of moist chocolate cake. This soil is a little dense, so the first thing that we're going to do today is till it up. It's kind of like holding on to a horse. So the next ingredient that we want to add to have the perfect soil for our vegetable garden is organic matter. Now, organic matter only makes up about 5 to 10% of your actual soil composure, but it's arguably one of the most important. Organic matter helps to hold moisture and nutrients so that the plants can pick up all of those elements that you need to grow big, beautiful plants. My favorite thing to add when it comes to organic matter is cow manure, and it's a cow manure compost. And of course, when I chose my cow manure at the store, I picked the Black Cow brand because that's the best cow there is. You don't need a lot of this. A little bit goes a long way. We're going to till through this one more time. So now that we have the cow manure tilled into the soil, I'm going to take the rake and just go along it and make a nice level bed so that we can put our plants in it. Whoa! So now this step is done, and I think I got my steps in for the day. We're going to move on to the next step in the process, and that's putting the plants in the ground. So we're going to take a short commercial break, but when we come back, we'll show you exactly what you all came here to see, and that's getting the vegetables into the ground. Stay with us. Now that we're back, it's time to do the fun part of the process, and that's actually putting the plants in the ground. But before you put the plants in the ground, you need to take a little time to plan, and that's where a garden planning app or website can really be beneficial. There's lots of links online. We put some on our website where you can follow. You can actually map out your exact dimensions of your garden and put what you're going to plant where. So this year I'm going to grow something that I haven't grown in the past, and that's spaghetti squash. So we're going to start this row with our spaghetti squash. So I'm going to take my trowel and dig just a hole a little bit wider and about the same depth as the container that the plant's in. One thing that I like to add to all of the plants that I put in the garden is Osmocote, and it's a slow release fertilizer. A small handful of this will last you the entire growing season. And then we're going to get our plant out. And we're going to put that little guy in the ground just like that. Now that we put our squash in the ground, I'm going to move on to one of my favorite plants that I plant every year, and that's peppers. And peppers are a good companion plant for tomatoes. They require the same type of soil, and one of my favorite peppers to grow is the jalapeno pepper. One important thing to remember when you're putting any of these plants into the ground is to plant only the amount that you and your family will eat. And that's just something that comes with trial and error, figuring out which plants produce how many plants every year. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you that a jalapeno plant produces a lot of good peppers. Now fast forward in the planting process, we've planted our peppers, we've planted our cucumbers, our squash, our zucchini, but I'm going to give you the secret recipe to planting and growing the most amazing tomato. The first thing I start with is a great tomato plant. There's a million different varieties of tomatoes, but you kind of have to find what works for you and what fits your taste. I've always found that I love the Better Bush tomato. So it's a compact, nice plant, and it produces a great sized fruit, and it tastes good too, which is what we all care about at the end of the day. So the first thing that we're gonna do when we talk about our secret recipe, eggshells are a great component when it comes to growing a good tomato. Eggshells add a calcium boost to your tomato plants. Calcium is something that tomatoes are often deficient in, and calcium helps to ward off a lot of fungal issues, blight, that eggshells help to resolve. So that's the first thing that we're going to put in our hole. The next thing is a few tablespoons of Epsom salt. Epsom salt is rich in magnesium. One key factor when you're putting the Epsom salt in, you need to cover it with another layer of dirt, because you don't really want that Epsom salt directly touching the roots, because that can burn them. It won't kill your plant, but it certainly doesn't help it when it's trying to set that good strong root base. The next part of our recipe is bone meal. Bone meal is rich in phosphorus, and adding a few tablespoons of that will help your plant set blossom and bigger fruit. So we're going to sprinkle that in there, get it all good and mixed up. And our final ingredient, aspirin. Okay, so we're going to add 1 or 2 aspirin tablets into the hole. Now what aspirin does is it's rich in salic acid, and the salic acid helps to ward off diseases and blight, and it can also help you increase the yield. So all of these things are going to work together to produce, hopefully, a very fruitful and prosperous tomato plant. Now that we've got most of our vegetable plants in the ground, we're going to finish off with our last and final companion plant, and that is the Marigold Flower. And these little jokers are one of the best weapons when it comes to warding off pests. They've got a really strong smell to them, and most bugs cannot stand the smell of marigolds. So what I do is plant a marigold in between just about every single one of the vegetable plants that I've got out here. Now we're ready for the final step in our day-long vegetable garden planting process, and that's giving our new plants a little drink of water. Woo! It has been a long, tiring, hot day of working in the garden. So for now, I'm going to sit down, enjoy my glass of lemonade, and look at all the beautiful plants that I've planted and wait for them to blossom into some wonderful vegetables this summer. If you like some of the ideas that I've shared with you today, or you've tried them, send us your pictures and give us your comments online on Facebook or Instagram, and share your pictures using the hashtag BayouBlooms. Or if you have questions that you would like for us to answer in future segments, you can always submit them on Facebook or online at twilatv.org. Next time we'll bring you an update on how the garden's doing, and hopefully we'll have some little tiny blooms to show you. Until then, I hope this segment has inspired you to get out in your own garden and enjoy this beautiful weather and exercise your green thumb to bring some of those blooms to your bayou.
It's always great seeing Kristen in her own element. Thank you, Kristen Oaks White.